Welcome back, everybody. It's the Betting Pros College Football Preview Show. I'm your host, Scott Bogman. Follow me on the Twitter at Bogman Sports. I'm here, as always, with Thor Nystrom at ThorKU on the Twitter machine and Mike Farrell at MFarrell Sports on the Twitter. 2 R's, 2 L's. Guys, interesting week 5 we had. It is week 6. We're almost halfway through the regular season here. This is some teams' full schedule. So, Thor, your thoughts on week 5 before we move ahead and look at week 6?
Super fun week. We didn't have quite the matchups as we had the week before in terms of qualitatively, but another fun week of college football. A lot of quarterback injuries and different stuff like that we're going to have to sort through today. But looking forward to this weekend as well. And we're going to give out some winners today.
Farrell, your thoughts on week 5 and the season so far? What have you liked? What have you disliked?
Well, my new number 1 is Michigan. Not that anybody cares what my new number 1 is, but, Georgia surprised me a little bit struggling against Auburn. I'm kind of most interested to see how this Big 12 plays out, because I think this is kind of like a pseudo championship game this weekend. And I don't know. It's good to see Florida State back this weekend because, I had them at number 1. I hate dropping somebody from number 1 when they didn't play, but, they'll be back at it this weekend too. So Big 10 looks great. It looks like a lot of fun. Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, all cruising along.
Yeah, it is tech. You don't have to wonder what the Big 12, what's going to happen in the Big 12, Farrell. It's definitely going to be Texas.
We're getting to that right now. We're going to go into your homerism immediately.
That's right. That's right. But before we get to that, let me tell you something, college football fans. Are you ready to put your betting skills to the test? Join the Betting Pros College Football Podcast betting group. Make your picks all season long. And if you're among the top ROI performers, you could win big prizes, include a signed Garrett Wilson Ohio State jersey and premium subscriptions to Fantasy Pros and Betting Pros. Just make at least 100 picks throughout the season to qualify. Jump in now at bettingpros.com/college. or in the Betting Pros app under the College Football Podcast group. May the best better win. Let's dive right into it. As Farrell mentioned, Texas a 6.5-point favorite in the Red River rivalry game. 60 is the total here. Cash, tickets, however you cut it, both on Texas and the over here, Thor. Is that where you're heading with this one as well? What do you think about the Red River rivalry?
I'm taking the points with Oklahoma just because I feel like the line is inflated. My line in this game is Longhorns -3 over the 6. And you get why the market is betting Texas. Of course, they've looked really good this year. Obviously, they beat Alabama, etc. But I just feel like this thing objectively is too high. So I'm gonna jump in with the Sooners on this one. I think there's a couple different things that they can do, at least to keep it close, and/or with where the line's gotten, coming through the back door potentially, even if the handicap gets away from us in that regard. But Texas at defense, Bogman, you know this, it's gotten better for sure. Very strong against the run, but they give up too many explosive plays. Against both the run and the pass. That's what Dylan Gabriel needs to take advantage of in this game for Oklahoma to keep it close. I do think Texas is going to win this game, Bogman, so don't get too upset with me. Don't kick me out of the stream. But I think it's going to be closer than the bookmakers do.
Farrell, where are you at in this game? It's traditionally a close one. Last year was not close at all. But this is always a fun game to watch, game of the week, that kind of stuff. Do you think it's going to live up to that hype as well?
It'll be better than last year. I'm pretty sure of that. I like the over more than I like the side here. I'm leaning towards Texas. They're a more complete football team. Oklahoma's offense has been impressive. Dylan Gabriel's been great. They haven't missed a beat there. Their offense probably looks a little better than they did last year. Defense looks slightly better, but I think they're going to be exposed a little bit here if Texas can fire on all cylinders. And a more balanced football team is going to win this one. So if I had to pick a side, I'm going to take Texas by 7-10. But I like the over. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game because if Texas does get out in front, Oklahoma's going to get the shooting match. And if Oklahoma gets out in front, Texas is going to have to really, air it out as well. So I do see quite an aerial assault here on both sides. We just did an article too, Bogman. You're going to be happy of this on the website. Who's better prepared for the SEC? We dove into, it's like an opus. Kyle Golick wrote it for me. We dove into who's ready for the SEC, and Texas is the answer. So they're going to win this football game. They're going to probably cover, but the over is going to be what you hit.
Yeah.
To Farrell's point about the total, both the defenses, they have the same common problem. That's passing explosion on both sides. So I do think Quinn Ewers in the Texas passing attack is going to have a big day. But I also think this opens up the door for Oklahoma's passing attack to continue to have success as well.
Yeah, Wyoming had a big play against Texas too, that big run in the first quarter. So yeah, the big plays given up, it still all goes back to tackling, which has frustrated me with my Longhorns for a while. But let's move on. I will not homer out anymore.
At least you're not an LSU fan, man.
That's true.
45 missed tackles or something. So be happy with what you got.
That defense is horrible. LSU has the Kent State defense of the Power Five. Like it's shockingly bad.
Embarrassing. It's embarrassing.
Legitimately embarrassing.
With the talent they have on that roster. It's crazy.
Let's go to that one now then.
Inexcusable, for
number
sure.
23
Look at you
LSU.
skipping around. Just like a good host.
Number 23 LSU, a 6-point road favorite at number 21 Missouri. 64.5 is the total here. And guys, I'm with you. I kind of prepped for my article late tonight going into tomorrow. But the one thing I know that I'm already taking is the over in this game because Missouri can score. Luther Burden is a stud. Brady Cook has been great, and he looked healthy last week, which is what we want to see from him. So, Thor, LSU and Missouri, are you picking the side here? Is it just all over?
Well, just speaking in the data to LSU's defense, I got some stats for you guys. LSU fans, you're going to want to do the skip button for 30 seconds on your podcast. For the rest of us, though, LSU's defense outside the top 105 nationally in the following categories: havoc rate, success rate, efficiency, ISO PPP, an explosion metric, marginal explosiveness, explosive play rate, points per opportunity allowed, run success rate, pass success rate, passing explosion. I could keep going. We'll just cut it off there. Basically, literally every single category you look at, it's like LSU is 110 or 120, 125. It's awful. They're now going on the road to Missouri, and as you guys know, I'm a Kansas alum. There's very few things that I like less than supporting Missouri, but I got to put my money on Missouri this week. You're getting 7 points at home against a team that cannot play defense, and Bogman, like you mentioned, Luther Burden, superstar. Yeah. Guy's an absolute stud. He's going to be a first-round pick.
We knew this, though. He was a five-star.
He's a five-star recruit.
Man. He got attention. He's a five-star.
But he's going to go ballistic in this game. LSU has allowed way less receivers to go over 100 yards, multitudes of them already this season. There is no cap on the amount of number that the numbers, receptions, yards, etc., that Luther Burden could get in this game. LSU's offense has been very good. Their special teams actually has been good too. It's just they have the joke of the defense. Missouri's offense should be able to stay there. And the last point I'll make about Missouri, their defense has remained solid despite the fact that they lost guys to the NFL over the offseason. Missouri's defense right now, number 18 SP+. So it's not just going to be the total sieve. They're also pretty good against the run. Right. And so LSU is going to have to very good offense, top 5 offense by the advanced numbers, but it is going to have to play a bit one-handed in this game going to the air. LSU is going to get theirs, but Missouri is going to get more than their fair share as well. LSU, you got to put them on upset alert here.
Are you with that, Farrell? Do you think LSU's on upset alert against Missouri?
Yeah, I do, but I'm taking the over. I'm not messing with the side here because Missouri's a nice story. They beat Kansas State. That was a very good win. Cook hasn't thrown a pick. Burden, it's never surprising for me to see a kid that's a superstar, 5-star talent go to a school that is close to home, where he's going to be the guy. I mean, he could have gone to Alabama and been, actually this year he could be the guy, but that's not a great example. But he could have gone someplace else, where he could just be another, piece of the puzzle. He stayed home. He is the piece of the puzzle. He's having a great season. The issue I have here is LSU is just so Jekyll and Hyde. They have been under Brian Kelly. He was supposed to fix this thing because the knock against him was he didn't have a quarterback in Notre Dame. Well, he's got a quarterback. So that's not an issue. The other knock was he couldn't recruit as effectively as he wanted to because of academic restrictions. Those are not existent at LSU. You look at the talent on this team, from Harold Perkins to Wingo to Smith to Jones. Defensively, they've got talented players. Their scheme is awful. They have no idea how to game plan. They're going to struggle. But with that, they're still LSU. They could, struggle against, Arkansas and then lose badly last week and then come back and win this game. So give me the over on this one. Second game in a row. I just like the number. It's going to be higher than that.
All right, let's go to Ohio State. Maryland on the road at number 4, Ohio State. 19.5 is the line here. 57.5 is the total. Money and tickets are on Maryland, not like substantially, but they're on Maryland against Ohio State here. A lot of high percentage on the over in this game as well. Thor, how do you see this one going?
I think the line is fair. It is a couple points inflated towards Ohio State, but it's not over a key number, as typically happens. My line on this one is Ohio State minus 17.4. My system's total is basically smack dab on what the Vegas one is. For me, this is a no play in this game. I could see for sure. We've seen like isolated spots under the Loxley Maryland regime there where they've given scares or more to really good teams like this. This could be one of those occurrences, but you would really have to be jumping out on a limb to do that. Like I said, fair line. I'm not going to be on this one.
Farrell, as a Longhorns fan, I know to never underestimate Maryland. Maryland is a good team. If you do not respect them, they will come in and beat you.
The memory you have. Look at the memory.
It's all pain,
Those
it's fine.
Crap teams you had, though. Those weren't good football teams. And
I know.
Maryland version is even better than those not so good Maryland teams that you lost to. But that's ancient history, man. You guys are, you're in a different stratosphere.
Are they competing against Ohio State? Are you taking?
19 and a half is too much for me. Okay. They're not going to win the football game, but I'm still not sold. Kyle McCord he grew up against Notre Dame. He had the big drive, but there's still some wonkiness to his reads, progressions. This is a pretty easy offense for you put up big numbers. You've got so many talented players, and you're not. It's not Tennessee's dumbed down offense, but it's just close to that. And he still hasn't broken out. He still hasn't put it all together yet. I believe he will, but when? Maryland is a pretty good football team. They're not great. We got a Tagovailoa who can spin the ball. They don't want to get in a shootout. They want to keep this low scoring if they can. So I'm not touching the over-under, but I will say that's just a little too much for me. I would think more. If that's 17, then I'm not touching it. But 19 and a half, you're going to give me an extra 2.5 points. Give me Maryland to cover.
We're going to find out a lot about Maryland this weekend. To this point, they rank 125th in the nation in strength of schedule. The best opponent. So Maryland is 5-0. You got to give them that credit. But the best opponent they have played so far, I'm going to put that in air quotes, best, Michigan State. That was also the only road game that Maryland has played so far. The other 4 opponents, Towson, Charlotte, Virginia, Indiana. We're going to find out a lot about Maryland. If their metrics hold, they could give Ohio State a little bit of trouble here because of the way that specifically their defense is constituted. Farrell was mentioning their offense. I think that part of it speaks for itself. Right now, you look at SP+, Maryland has the 28th defensive passing success rate, and they're number 11 in suppressing passing explosion. But again, the 5 opponents I just said, few of those teams are able to get the ball down the field. Maryland, their defensive weakness by far is their run defense. That's not what Ohio State prefers. But again, we're going to learn a lot about Maryland now that they're playing a legitimate opponent.
All right, let's go to Virginia Tech at number 5, Florida State. Florida State is a 23.5-point favorite at home. 52.5 is the number on this one. Cash is heavy on the Hokies here. Very heavy on the Hokies in this game. The tickets and cash are split on the total here. Tickets are on the over, cash is on the under here, Thor. Figure this game out for us. How do you see this one going? Because every time I pick against Vautech, they show up. Every time I pick them, they don't. So let me know how they're going to go here.
I'm just as annoyed by Vautech as you. Okay, just for the record on that. My line on this game is Florida State minus 23.1. We're right around where Vegas is. You said it was 24.5 now, right?
23.5, I believe. Yeah.
Oh, 23 and a half. It came down. Yeah, I mean, we're right there. And my total too, my system's total 52.4. So we're right around where the Vegas one is. This is going to be a stay away for me, but the thing to watch for in this game is obviously Virginia Tech still has a terrible offense. Their run defense isn't great as well. And so you wonder, is this the game where Trey Benson turns it around? You know, he's been a little bit sluggish, had a couple flashes, but like he hasn't lived up, at least to my preseason expectation yet. This game would profile as a Trey Benson game where Virginia Tech could potentially give Florida State problems. And if they get within this number, it's because of this. So far, Virginia Tech's pass defense, number 12 in success rate. You can beat them down the field. So we'll have to see, Travis, how the accuracy is going down the field. But Virginia Tech has a shot to hinder their Florida State's passing efficiency and potentially force a few more punts than you might think.
Farrell, what do you think?
No. No.
Trying to make the case.
I know, it's fine. It's fine. I mean, Pitt, what happened to you? I don't understand. Dracovic, it's not just the only excuse. You're a god-awful football team. You got drilled by Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech, as Brent Pry is saying, 1-0. They are undefeated in ACC play, but here's the problem. Florida State, and I know this because I know people, they're a little bit ticked off, that they're not ranked high. And they're fifth. That's great. But they should be in the discussion. They believe, number one, they beat LSU. They beat Clemson. Clemson's a solid football team, not the same Clemson as years past. But they feel they're getting punished for the style points of the red bandana game. And guess what they're going to do from here on out against crap teams? Style points are going to be important. So they're going to run this up. They're going to win this game 25 to 30 points. They're going to cover the spread. Florida State, they're going to get on track. As Thor said, they haven't got on track running the ball yet. Once they get on track running the ball and put a game together, they put up that many points against LSU. We've learned LSU's defense stinks. So, that's not a surprising number looking now. Virginia Tech stinks too. So they're going to put up, potentially 45 to 50 points and cover that number.
All right, let's go over to Syracuse on the road at number 14, North Carolina. North Carolina is an 8-point favorite. The total is 59 in this game. Tickets and cash are split. Tickets are on Syracuse. Cash is on UNC. Also favoring the under a little bit in terms of the total here. Thor, how do you see this ACC matchup going down?
Yeah, so I definitely lean Syracuse, but I got a big asterisk on this one. The reason I haven't bought a ticket yet is because Garrett Schrader, looking at him with the concussion, there was a bit of a scare with that in the last game. Schrader said that him getting hit in the head, it didn't affect him, whatnot. But we're still sort of waiting for an update on that, if that is anything that's going to linger. Certainly, there's been no question about his availability for this game, but that was a lingering concern coming out of the last one. So we're waiting for more news on that specific thing. But if Schrader is good to go, I do think that this is too many points. My line on this game is North Carolina by 5.7. And we're obviously over the key number here, but that is dependent on Garrett Schrader being healthy. If he's not and they have to go to the backup, then, yeah, you're probably looking at a North Carolina double-digit win. Syracuse will only be able to run, but that, getting better North Carolina defense, feigning by damn praise there, but it has gotten a little bit better. If they only have to go up against a one-handed offense where they know what's coming, it's going to make North Carolina's defense way more viable, whereas if Schrader's there, Syracuse has some of those emerging receivers. I thought the Gadsden injury might kill them, but it hasn't so far because they've had some receivers step up and whatnot. But this one is a wait and see on Garrett Schrader's status.
What do you think, Farrell? Do you think UNC is pulling this out? Are you waiting on Garrett Schrader too? Do you not trust their defense? Where are you going?
I don't trust their defense, honestly. I don't think, North Carolina's defense is slightly improved. We haven't really seen them play South Carolina we thought would be a test, and South Carolina not really a test. App State always gives them trouble, at least in recent history. So, they've had some okay opponents, but nothing great. But I think the offense is ready to start, gelling, peaking. I think Drake May's ready to start putting up some numbers. I don't trust Syracuse defense. Syracuse is kind of doing their nosedive a little bit early. Usually, in my mind last year, especially, it was after 6 games. I didn't like what I saw against Clemson. Schrader is a key. I mean, he's a huge key. This is a situation where without him, it's like a 4 or 5 point difference in the spread. So I'm not really trusting Syracuse. I'm going over because I think North Carolina is going to put up points. I think Schrader, if he plays, is going to be able to put up points against that weak defense. I don't trust Carlos Del Rio Wilson or whatever his name is now. He keeps changing if he's the backup. But I'm leaning over right now. And if I had to pick a side, I would pick North Carolina because I think Syracuse, man, they really, really disappointed me last week. Didn't look that good. Clemson's there for the taking. They played them close the last couple of years, and last week just wasn't a good performance.
Del Rio Wilson sounds like a made-up coach in Madden when you're on like year 2042. So it sounds like one of those guys. Before we move on to a couple SEC matchups, I got to ask you guys, have you downloaded the free Betting Pros app for iOS and Android yet? Use Sportsbook Sync to automatically track your bets across all major sportsbooks in one spot. Easily track your bet performance by sport and by bet type, including game picks, props, and parlays. Get personalized bet recommendations tailored to your interests, including line alerts when viewing a game or of interest. Simply set a game notification so that you are alerted once a line hits a certain number. At that point, you'll be notified so you can lock in your bet at the ideal line. You can set the number to be and set it by Sportsbook. Head over to bettingpros.com/apps to start setting your line alerts now, or download the Betting Pros app in the iTunes or Google Play Store today. Let's go to the SEC here. Alabama, number 11 at Texas A&M. Bama is a 2.5-point road favorite. 46.5 is the total in this game. Everything is telling us Bama in the over in terms of public tickets and money and cash and everything. Is that where you're at in this game, Thor? Are you on Bama in the over? Because the line is low, but we know A&M plays pretty well. They got a good home crowd. The original 12th man, the Seattle Seahawks, actually have to lease that from them, which a lot of people don't know. But A&M's a tough place to play. Bama looked good last week, though. So where are we standing on Bama at this point in the season? They've been a bit of a roller coaster.
Yeah, no, I'm fading Alabama again, and I think Texas A&M going to win this game. Now, I did say that about Ole Miss when they played Alabama. I was right when I called it on Texas upsetting Alabama. We missed the last one, so I guess this is the rubber match of me calling upsets against Alabama. But A&M does a lot of things that I think are going to give Alabama problems. A&M has a top 10 SP plus defense. They also have arguably the most improved run defense in the nation. Last year, anybody could run on Texas A&M. As Farrell knows, our resident recruiting expert, A&M a couple years ago, they had the most vaunted defensive line class in the history of recruiting. It was like, was it Farrell, 6 of the top 9 or something? Or 5 of the top 10 or whatever it was.
I'm not going to say in the history of recruiting because everybody says that, because you remember that class was also the best class
by the
in the history of
just
recruiting.
For one position.
Yeah, the garbage crap rankings. Yeah, no. Really good defensive line class. Absolutely, for sure. I just hate that phrase in the history of recruiting. But yes, Walter Nolan and those guys, I hear what you're saying.
So last year, those kids were all, young. I mean, they were just out of high school. And, again, you could push them around. You can't do that anymore. And like I said, top 10 overall, but also now a really good run defense to go with what was already a really good pass defense. I believe A&M finished number 1 just by the rote numbers in pass defense last year, even though, like I said, the run defense was a travesty. And the offense has jumped way up as well. That's largely attributable to Bobby Petrino, but also it was the same sort of deal on their offense, whereas a bunch of these ballyhooed recruits, and then Achane as well. But Achane got hurt last season. Anaya Smith got hurt, whatever. So, I mean, then, you saw the offensive struggles, but A&M, their offense has gotten better. With Milroe running the offense for Alabama, Alabama becomes this sort of throwbacky Alabama team. They have, I think, the number 9 SP plus defense, but the passing offense, it's not great, right? I mean, like in terms of success rate, I believe Alabama ranks in the 80s in the country. They have a little bit of explosion because Milroe can push it down the field, but you're not afraid of Bama throwing the ball. And because of this, they have toggled the tempo way back. Alabama, I believe they're in the 80s as well in adjusted tempo in the country. They're also top 10 in the nation in standard down run rate. So Alabama just run when they're not handing it off. It's to Milroe. But again, the problem here is A&M's run defense has gotten really good. Alabama certainly is not going to be able to throw on Texas A&M. So, all these different things together, I like A&M. Last point I'll make is Max John, Connor Weigman, obviously the A&M starter, he's out for this season. I said on last week's show, I didn't think Max Johnson was a big downgrade from him. Max Johnson played pretty well in the Arkansas game. In the limited sample that we have so far, Max Johnson this season, 6-1 TDI&T rate, 7.8 adjusted air yards in 59 attempts. Weigman in those stats, 8.2 TDI&T rate and 8.4 over 119 attempts. Johnson was moving around pretty decent too, outside of the one where he got smoked when he was running by the Arkansas guy and then he fumbled. But a very good game outside of that, and A&M obviously comfortably covered in that one. I think A&M beats Alabama on Saturday.
Farrell, do you think that as well? I know, just like Thor mentioned, Max Johnson, one of the better replacement QBs in the country. So Texas A&M isn't necessarily hurting too bad as much as other teams would if their starting QB had gone down, I guess is what I should say here. So are you buying on the Aggies, or do you think the Tide rolls here?
I think it's going to be under. The side's tough. I mean, Alabama being a 2.5-point favorite on the road. Kyle Field, 12th man. I don't trust Jimbo. I don't trust this A&M team yet. I thought Arkansas would cover last week. That didn't work out. Johnson's a solid quarterback. Evan Stewart is a guy that if they don't start targeting him more, I don't know what I'm going to do. He should be Luther Burden. That's what he should be. He's so talented. He's unbelievably unstoppable. And you have one good game this year against Miami where he caught 11 for 142. He had the New Mexico game. It doesn't really count. Last week, 2 for 50, but one of the catches was a professional NFL football catch on the sideline. It was amazing. I don't know why they're not targeting him more. And Johnson's one of those guys who tends to lock on. If we remember his LSU days, he would lock on the best receiver and feed him, and he hasn't done that yet. That being said, I don't trust either offense. Texas A&M's good against the run. What does Milroe do? He runs. A&M's offense isn't opened up enough. I don't think they're, throwing the ball downfield as much. The secondary of Alabama is pretty solid. So I think this is going to be a lower scoring game. I think, 46.5 isn't a high number by any stretch of the imagination, but I see this like a 20-17. I don't know who's going to win though, so I'm not taking the side.
Let's stick in the SEC and go ranked on ranked matchup here. Number 20, Kentucky at number 1, Georgia. Georgia is a 14-point home favorite. 48.5 is the total here. Cash and tickets so far have been on Kentucky. They looked good last week. Tickets on the under, cash on the over here. So a little bit split in terms of the total, Thor, but I don't know. Georgia likes to sleepwalk through that first half, and they absolutely cannot do that against Kentucky. I don't know that Kentucky is as good as people are making them out to be, but they are not a team that you can sleep on at all whatsoever. So how do you see this game playing out, and do you think Kentucky can pull it off?
Yeah, we made some good money with Kentucky last week against Florida. The line went against. I was confused by the line. It was 3 at the beginning of the week. It went down to 1. I was like, who's betting on Florida in this spot? And then Kentucky just pistol whipped them for 60 minutes.
You know what they didn't do though, Thor? Like we thought they were going to beat them with the pass. Because Florida was good against the run all season long, and then Ray Davis comes along and just has the career game of his life.
The great blue wall, as he talked about it.
Killed them.
Yeah.
So, the props kind of evened out. I was big on Kentucky. I've been on Kentucky all season long. The props kind of evened that out because I thought that would be more of a passing game. But, back to your point, Kentucky won us some money last week.
They definitely did. This week, I think I'm going to stay away from this side. If I had to lean one way, it would be Kentucky based on what we've seen. And with Georgia, it's like, every week we talk about the sleepwalking thing. I'm starting to wonder, is this team just not as good as the last two? Mm-hmm. I'm not really going out on a limb, but it's like, at what point is it like, it's we have to wake up to what we're seeing there. They're down a little bit, and I do think Kentucky could give them a scare here, but that's not my favorite bet of this game. And like I said, I might just stay away from the side. The one I really like is the under. I bought a ticket on that on Sunday. I think it's come down from the last time I seen it. But both these teams play good defense. Both the offenses are run slow as molasses tempo. For Kentucky's part, they're 130th in adjusted tempo. Georgia they've never moved quick during the Kirby Smart era. So I think it's more like the struggle thing and the, play clock runs down to 5. Now we snap it again and sort of that thing. And then the back and forth, we're trading punts and feeling each other out and whatnot. I felt like the number dropped too high. My system's total on that one was 41 flat, and it opened near 50. 48 and a half is the last time I seen it, but I'm on the under. I really like the under in this game.
And Farrell, are you on the under as well here, or
Yep.
Are you taking the side? Do you like props more?
Texas A&M game's 46 and a half. I'm on the under there. This game's even more of a, knuckle punch to the face type of two, as Thor mentioned, slow moving offenses, not a lot of dynamic playmakers, conservative, play calling, want to establish the run. So I'm on the under. I think if I had to pick a side, it would be Kentucky. I think 14 is a little much. This Georgia team, yeah, it's definitely not what we saw 2 years ago. Defensively, they don't have, they've got the dudes, the 4 and 5 star, but they don't have the same ability up front. I mean, they just, so I think Ray Davis can actually run the football fairly effectively here. They don't have the freaky pass rushers, that can come in, the hybrid guys. They've got some, but nothing to the level of, Nolan Smith and what he could do when he was healthy. And offensively, Brock Bowers bailed their butts out. I mean, just bailed them out. And that's okay. But, you're going to bracket him more. You're going to watch that film against Auburn. It's not that Auburn gave him those receptions, but he's going to be bracketed much more in this game. The defensive coaches at Kentucky are very smart. It's a good defense. They're not going to be beaten that way. So I think, they're going to cover the 14, but take the under. This is going to be, a smash mouth kind of ugly SEC game. It could end up being 20-14.
All right, let's go over to number 10, Notre Dame on the road at now ranked number 25, Louisville. Notre Dame is a 6.5 point road favorite. The total is 54.5. Heavy cash on the under, heavy cash on Notre Dame as well, Thor. Is that how you see this game going, Notre Dame in the under?
Yeah, I like Notre Dame, yeah. And I guess I would probably lean the under. That one not as strong. I'm not going to play the total in this one, but my system side line on it is Notre Dame 8.4. So we're above, in this line being beneath the touchdown. I think that's a smash for sure. You look at Notre Dame, like offensively and defensively, run and pass, all the metrics, efficiency and explosion. They're top 30 in every single one. They're top 15 in multiple ones, top 25 in a couple of the other ones, whatnot. I don't love this matchup I've seen a lot of Louisville this year because I was bullish on them coming into the year. They played some of these Friday night games and whatnot. They're just not the sum of their parts yet. And that makes sense because it's the first month of the Jeff Brom era. But I like their running back, that Jordan kid, he gives them a little bit of an explosive element. I like Plummer enough. I certainly like Thrash, his top receiver. But
why couldn't they score in NC State, Thor?
Exactly. Yeah. And that NC State team stinks. So bad, by the way, that they benched the veteran quarterback, Brennan Armstrong, who came over there and reunited with Robert and I. They were forced to bench him after that game, and Louisville only beat that team by a field goal. This
it was
is
3.5. I was
matchup.
pretty mad about that one. I thought for sure Louisville was going to beat them up.
And one last word on that game. The biggest bugaboo with this Louisville team that we've seen, it's allowing the explosive plays over the top defensively. That was a bugaboo that NC State categorically is not equipped to take advantage of, particularly when Brennan Armstrong is quarterbacking, because he's a noodle arm who doesn't see the field very well either. But Robert and I's system, it's the quick hitting passing, system, whatnot. It always has been. Notre Dame, I mentioned before, they're not only way up there in terms of the passing success rate, the passing efficiency. They also are in terms of explosion, and you don't typically think about them like that because they're still running at the snail's pace on offense. But I mean, very, very good. Sam Hartman's gonna be able to take aim downfield here. I think this is a big game for Sam Hartman. I think he goes ballistic in this one, and I think Notre Dame wins by double digits.
And Farrell, are you on the Notre Dame side here as well? Are you disappointed in Louisville, or do you think that maybe they can pull this one off?
Yeah, I like Brom. I think he's a good coach. I think they're 5-0 because of him. I don't think they'd be 5-0 if Satterfield was still there. I don't like Plummer. I don't think he's very good. He makes some just absolutely head-scratching decisions and doesn't see the field that well. And his numbers are, extremely inflated by one game against a horrible Boston College defense. Where he completed 86% of his passes, threw for 5 touchdowns, no picks. But other than that, I think he's got more interceptions than touchdowns. His completion percentage, if you take away the Boston College game and the Murray State game, which is, by the way, he threw 2 picks in that game, he's about a 54% passer. Nothing great. They have a solid running back. They got Thrash at wide receiver. Their offense is capable. But I don't think they're going to be able to stop them defensively, especially up front. I mean, their secondary, to me, they got some guys back there, but they don't have the front. Estime is going to, establish the run that's going to open things up for Hartman. They're going to be out physical. This is not a good matchup for them whatsoever. You got to give me Notre Dame here, and I'm big on the side. I think they're going to win by 10 to 14 points.
I mentioned when we were talking about the Maryland-Ohio State game, Maryland's strength of schedule at this point. We got something similar going on with Louisville. 117th strength of schedule to this point. Opponents so far, Georgia Tech, Murray State, Indiana, Boston College. Farrell was talking about that one. And then NC State last Friday night when NC State had to bench the quarterback who has a long-standing relationship with their offensive coordinator, but they can't play him anymore. We're going to learn a lot about Louisville this weekend, but I don't think we're going to learn good stuff about them.
Here's the thing, too. They beat Georgia Tech by 5. Remember, they had to come back in that game.
Yeah, they
cover. That ticked me off. Indiana by 7, and NC State by 3.
3.
Those are, 3 bad football teams, categorically bad football teams. I mean, Georgia Tech just lost to – I don't even want to say who they lost to because Georgia Tech fans might be watching, but they just lost to one of the worst teams
Connor
in the
Bazelak in the building.
Yeah. And then, Indiana's not a good football team at all, and they barely beat them. And NC State's horrible, as we talked about. They're just not there. Notre Dame is going to take this game. And Notre Dame, again, like I said last week, I faded Duke last week. It worked out for me. They are really, really good against the ACC. Notre Dame is really, really good. And that's not just beating up on crap teams. It's beating up on ranked teams or beating ranked teams like Duke last week. Louisville's ranked. They were 25th. Clemson in the past. Notre Dame beats the ACC like a drum. So they're gonna win this game pretty easily.
All right, let's go to the Pac-12 for the last game we'll talk about tonight. Arizona at number 9, USC. USC is a 21.5-point favorite. 71.5 is the total here. Tickets are on USC, but cash is on the Wildcats here, Thor. Total is high, but I just think until further notice, you just take the over on a USC game because they score on everyone and cannot stop anyone. So how do you see this one going?
Well, Arizona got pretty good news here recently. Looks like Delora is coming back for this one. And that's especially good news. I mean, not only do you have to keep up in the shootout and whatnot, and Arizona's passing offense when Delora's out there is very good because they have the 2 stud receivers as well. But also the freshman, Fafita or no whatever, I'm blanking on the last name. But anyhow, he was decent last week. He was a little bit better than I thought he was going to be, just thrown to the wolves, whatever. But he got a little banged up in that game. But it doesn't appear it's going to matter because Delora back for this one. Delora, I mean, that allows Arizona to, like you mentioned, him putting up the points, right? Like, I mean, Arizona's going to throw, especially if Michael Wiley doesn't play in this game. I think his status is more up in the air, Arizona's running back. But with Delora, you have the higher powered passing offense, and you can draw parallels there between, you were setting this up, Bogman, between this game and last week's game, USC Colorado. I had the Colorado plus 24.5 ticket, and was it late first quarter? It was already USC had the 21-point lead.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh boy, but then USC defense, like you're mentioning, they can't tackle.
It's a Lincoln Riley special. It happened in Oklahoma too.
Lincoln Riley special. And now they have a couple guys like the Bear Alexander kid. They have a couple guys on that defense where it's like that guy's going to play in the NFL for sure. But there's too many spots where it's either inexperience or simply lack of talent. Arizona, the receivers there are going to be able to do stuff. I would be concerned if I laid this many points with USC that the same thing is going to happen, that Arizona is just going to come in through the back door later on. Or I suppose actually Colorado was technically covering that whole game, I think. I'm not sure if the lead ever got higher than that from USC, but that's a concern. I would lean Arizona in this game, knowing that Delora is going to be back.
Farrell, same spot. I mean, are you going with Arizona?
I'm going over. I took USC last week. They were up 21 at the half.
Same.
I was like ready to, this is going to be ugly. This is going to be, at the very least 42-6 or, Oregon level ugly. But then I thought, we got Caleb Williams here. We're going to be 55-17, 10, whatever. And then that defense is just awful. Alex Grinch has something on Lincoln Riley. Something's fishy here. There's some sort of pictures out there that he's keeping. There's some blackmail. You remember, and I like this guy, so I don't want to really call him up, but I guess nobody really watches this. So you remember Al Golden and Mark
Secret
D'Onofrio?
between friends.
You remember Al Golden and Mark D'Onofrio, the defense coordinator for Miami, and everybody's like, why won't he fire him? Why won't he get rid of him? And Al Golden went down with the ship with D'Onofrio, and they're both Jersey guys. They both run the same staff at UVA. They had a long-standing coaching relationship, and Golden was never going to get rid of him. And he let D'Onofrio anchor him down. Not that that was the reason. I mean, Al Golden was a disaster in Miami for many different reasons. It's the same thing here. It's just inexplicable. He's never going to win it. He's never going to make the playoff with Alex Grinch as his defense coordinator. He was able to do that at Oklahoma. He's not going to do it at USC, even with one of the best quarterbacks we've ever seen in college football history. Because honestly, they get worse. They're getting worse. This was embarrassing. And so I'm taking the over because what's going to happen here is Caleb Williams is going to march out there. He's going to throw 4 touchdowns, no picks. He's going to be Caleb Williams. They're going to go up by 20 to 25 points. And then for some inexplicable reason, USC is going to stop tackling. They're going to play soft. They're going to let everything be completed in front of them. Then they're going to inch up, let things be completed over there. It's going to be exact replica of Colorado. So take the over because it's going to be probably a 10-point USC victory with a lot of points.
I have to jump in with for this episode, what's becoming a theme, my strength of schedule caveat. USC strength of schedule to this point, 124th. And they played absolutely nobody. San Jose State, Nevada, Stanford, Arizona State, and Colorado. Colorado, by far the best team that USC has played so far. Arizona's played, not a murderer's row, but, they played Washington last week. So this is one where I think we learn a little bit more about USC, but we're really going to learn more about USC next week when they travel to South Bend. And that is another data point to potentially consider Arizona here. This is a classic look-ahead spot for USC. I would be on Arizona.
All right. So any more games that we didn't hit, Thor, that you are really in on, that you really like, that we want to let the people know about?
Yeah, let's do a Thursday one. There's an underdog on Thursday that I am irrationally confident is going to upset the favorite. And the ironic thing is, last Thursday, I was on the favorite laying the points. very similar point spread, and easily won that one. I'm talking about Western Kentucky. They were 5.5, 6 point favorite over Middle Tennessee. I loved Western Kentucky in that game. They blew out Middle Tennessee. This week, Western Kentucky, a 6.5 point favorite over Louisiana Tech on the road, depending on the book that you're looking at. But here's the problem. The reason that you were on Western Kentucky last week against Middle is because Middle has a really good front seven. They shut down the run. Middle's secondary is awful. So it was a really good matchup for Western Kentucky. This one is the total opposite. Louisiana Tech stinks against the run. They're absolutely horrid against the run, but they are awesome against the pass. They have one of the G5's best secondaries. In fact, I believe they have two corners ranked in the PFF top 10 grading for the coverage grades, whatnot. One of the kids is a nickel, the slot guy. Obviously, Western Kentucky throws into the slot quite a bit, but just the overall metrics here, looking at the Louisiana Tech. So the Bulldogs, number 8 in the nation in defensive passing success rate on defense, number 13 in yards per dropback allowed, number 2 in the nation in completion percentage allowed, Louisiana Tech. That's what Western Kentucky does. Yeah. That's all that they do. They do not have the running thing to go to. In this game, you would almost be like, well, let's try Marquis Step a little bit more, or some of the, but that's not what they do. They throw. That's what they're going to do. You have to go right into the pronounced strength of Louisiana Tech. And like I mentioned, one of the G5's best pass defenses, and then you flip the field. Louisiana Tech, the quarterback play there, they still haven't really figured it out. The passing attack, you'd like to see a little bit more. But they have been able to run the ball effectively this year because they got a couple good running backs back there. Western Kentucky's run defense is an abomination. This is an awesome matchup for Louisiana Tech, and it's in this spot where I don't think Western Kentucky is going to take them as seriously as they probably should. You're getting 6.5 points if you want it with Louisiana Tech. Certainly, I'm doing that. I also think Louisiana Tech wins this one outright, so I'm on the money line as well.
Farrell, what games do you like this week that you want to let the people know about here?
I got one, and people are going to be confused by this a little bit because they just got drilled by Kentucky and everybody wants Billy Napier fired. But the revenge game against Vanderbilt, Vanderbilt is getting 18.5 points, I believe, early, which sounds like a lot, but Vanderbilt is really, really bad against the run. Second to last, to the infamous LSU Tigers in rush defense, overall defense, really bad as well. Billy Napier will not change the offense. He came out and said he's not changing the offense. They're going to run. They're going to be heavy run. They're going to wear Vanderbilt down. And don't forget it's a revenge game. And, Sunbelt Billy needs a big win. He needs a win by a lot of points. I think they're going to run it up on Vandy. So, lay the 18.5, which sounds ridiculous because, of course, 3 weeks ago, he was our guy. Billy Napier was our guy. We beat Tennessee. Then they struggle against Charlotte. They lose to Kentucky. Now we want him fired. He's horrible. What's his buyout? Let's get rid of him, just like we did with Muschamp, McElwain, Mullen. This is going to be a big win for Florida. They're going to come back, and then people are going to say, oh, maybe the offense works. And the typical Florida fans who are just completely moronic and overreacting in every way, shape, or form. They're at least going to be happy for 1 week. They're going to win this game probably by 3 touchdowns.
All right. Well, that will wrap us up here. Get your bets in. Good luck in week 6 here. Remember, you can follow us all on Twitter at Bogman Sports, at ThorKU, at M Farrell Sports, 2 R's, 2 L's on the Twitter. And we will see you guys next week. Take it easy, everybody.